It's been a mixed year for Wario. The good, Nintendo are finally releasing a brand new WarioWare game. The bad, Elon Musk destroyed the character in one of the unfunniest skits of all time, dragging his name and appearance through the dirt with his painful, uncharismatic, comedic incompetence.
Dogecoin, ha 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 ha, oh so funny.
The man is an idiot. I'm not sure if this video was the one that anyone expected from me next. In fact, I'm pretty sure I've teased various others. But as far as I'm concerned, Wario is the king of Nintendo characters, opposing Mario and the crew with a perfect characterization and design to match. A horrible caricature of Nintendo's main man Mario,
Mamma mia!
Wario emerged on the scene to combat the pesky plumber and comfortably made his home in the franchise with an awesome design and a level of greed that you just can't help but find endearing. Waluigi gets a lot of hype, but let's face it, he wouldn't exist if it wasn't for the original Mario anti-hero and fan favourite. He debuted as a main boss, transformed one of Mario's series into his very own, became a party co-op mainstay, and is still dropping creative and exciting new game styles in 2021 while still doing what he does best, obsessing over treasure. Today we'll find out which Wario design I think is best, whilst running through the character's interesting and subtle evolution. Before we kick off though, you know the score, like the video, subscribe to the channel, donate your life savings to me, and click the notification bell. Wario made his debut in Super Mario Land 2, as the title's lead villain and was basically Nintendo's first attempt an evil doppelganger for their popular mascot. His name is a portmanteau, combining the Japanese word wari, meaning bad, with Mario to literally mean Bad Mario, a name that says all that it needs to say. Design-wise, the biggest standout has to be the character's nose, large, round and pink, with an accompanying sharp, jagged moustache that looks like Mario's if Mario had the grace and decorum of a maniacal vaudevillain. He wears green pointed shoes which match his pointed ears, he has a yellow hat with a white brim, a yellow long sleeve top, purple overalls and white gloves, with both these and his hat featuring a W or an upside down Mario logo dependent on how you look at it. Judging by Wario's lack of originality, it would appear to be the latter. In my previous character design episode focused on Mario, I mentioned how his original appearance came about when Nintendo was unable to use the Popeye license. Coincidentally, Popeye also has some rooting in Wario's design too. Game artist Hiroji Kiyotake imagined Wario as the Bluto to Mario's Popeye, and the evidence is very clear of this, as Wario is much stockier than Mario, with his form factor displaying a clear physical advantage. Other features that would become iconic going forward were his cleft chin and Cheshire Cat-style grin. He also appears to be wearing cyan blue eyeshadow for some reason. Throughout the Game Boy Classic, Wario's appearance is teased originally. A silhouette of him can be seen atop Mario's castle should you visit it throughout your adventure. When you come face to face with him at the end of the game, he takes on a detailed pixel-based form, with one absolute unit of a head. Perhaps wanting to emphasise Wario's crazier facial features, the scale of his entire sprite is giant in comparison to Mario's, making him feel threatening and unhinged, perfect for a final boss showdown. Wario's debut entry was a smash hit and would change the landscape of the Super Mario Land series for good. In fact, Super Mario Land 3 featured him as the main character. Adding the subtitle Wario Land was a preview of things to come, as Wario would absorb Mario's spin-off Game Boy entries and claim it for his own. In the first Wario Land entry, Wario was given a subtle design polish. Not many elements of him changed in terms of his core ensemble, his outfit remained the same, but his general demeanour felt refined. His eyes are the element that stand out, as they seem to have more purpose and less lunacy, which reflects his in-game characterization as a treasure hunter rather than a manic and crazed foe. In the game itself, Wario's sprite was again large in comparison to former platformers like Mario, but it was definitely a sophisticated improvement to Mario Land 2, with Wario feeling like a more established character. Much like Mario, Wario would also now shrink when hit by an enemy, revealing a smaller sprite that lacked a hat and made him look noticeably more impish. Game art also existed for this powered down form, highlighting his hair was reduced to a tiny sprout of fuzz. One part of the key costume that did change was Wario's hat. The game made use of a hat-swapping power-up system, with an explorer's hat being the key focus for the game's default sprite, fitting of the treasure hunting adventure he found himself going on. Despite never being the focal character, the Nintendo 64 era began to introduce Wario into a multitude of party games, including Mario Kart, Golf, Tennis, and Party. The official renders for Wario were very consistent between these titles, showing off Wario's classic attire with all his distinguishing features. Wario would continue to appear in this style for decades, with the style of render really not changing all too much. It has, however, become refined over time, with the renders more closely resembling their in-game counterparts. In the GameCube era, you could say this peaked with Wario World, which unfortunately never quite matched the highs of the Wario Land series. My sports game highlight has to be this ridiculous outfit that Wario debuted in the recent Mario Golf Super Rush, looking like a business tycoon with too much money and not enough fashion sense. Wario boasts an incredible 10-gallon hat, complete with a purple and orange polo shirt, diamond checkered pants, a Wario emblem belt buckle, and even AstroTurf versions of his classic pointed shoes. Incredible. With the next entry in the Wario Land series, Wario Land 2, Wario continued to evolve in new and interesting ways. When it came to the game art, he looked similar to how he had before, however he now featured shorter shirt sleeves so he could show off those massive biceps. For the game itself, the platforming would take a different turn mechanically, as the hat system was replaced by context-sensitive transformations. Wario would recognisably be warped into lots of different shapes, forms and sizes dependent on the situations he found himself in. I'm personally a big fan of the vampire bat option. Colour had finally found its way into the series as the games now took place on the Game Boy Color, but Wario's sprite was definitely simplified from the previous titles. This makes sense when you see the versatility of the in-game transformations, which always managed to take incredibly varied forms, while still somehow retaining an easily recognisable hint of Wario within them. This gameplay style continued into the next Wario Land game, which would take place on the Game Boy Advance. The style was improved in the pixel art, with the sprites for Wario Land 4 feeling like the peak of the handheld games. Jumping up to 32-bit was huge for how great the game and Wario looked, and it lent itself even better to the context-sensitive power-ups and transformations. Wario's in-game sprite feels like the perfect evolution from the original Wario Land game. Recognisable as Wario, not too big or small, beautifully shaded and detailed, with the transformations looking perfect in the pixel art format. Up until this point, I would say the visual progression of Wario in 2D has been quite clear. The arrival of the Nintendo DS, however, ushered in a Wario Land spin-off that fell a bit short. Wario, Master of Disguise, took the transformation aspects of Wario to more literal levels, having Wario change his outfits to represent his context-sensitive powers. These disguises allowed him to dress up as a pirate, an artist, a scientist, and even Vegeta from Dragon Ball Z. While the character art for these games is up to the usual series high standard and merits their inclusion in this video, the pixel art feels like a true Wario low point. Not awful by any means, but very flat and emotionless, lacking the expression and vibrant details that was present in Wario Land before. A return to Wario Land was also a return to form, both in graphics and gameplay. Wario Land Shake It, also known as the Shake Dimension in Europe, was a mainline console entry of the previously handheld Wario Land games that debuted on the Nintendo Wii amidst the peak of its popularity. Its inclusion in this best design video shouldn't be too much of a surprise, as it features a beautiful hand-drawn art and animation style, with Wario's character model literally looking like an anime come to life. The creative team decided that while Wario was still dictated by greed, he was very much a hero in this title, and subtle changes reflected in his design to put emphasis on his masculinity and heroic nature. Because of this, the artwork was ever so slightly more angular, highlighting Wario's strength and muscular form, whereas before he'd been somewhat of a podgy joke, here he felt like a heroic brute with a few funny quirks. This was an incredibly stylish step up from the GBA titles, paying homage to the fantastic animations found on the handheld. Unfortunately, this may be the only occasion we'll see this design, as it required more than 2,000 frames of animation, and the game itself didn't exactly sell gangbusters. I've got my fingers crossed for a Switch port down the line to give this underrated gem the second chance it deserves, but I'm not going to get my hopes up. The WarioWare series was a huge departure for the character in terms of gameplay style, as Wario had now left his treasure hunting, platforming adventures. Continuing on with the character's trademark greed, he intended to create and sell incredibly short game experiences so he could rake in the profits. I guess Nintendo hired him to make Mario Kart Tour. To reflect the difference in gameplay, Wario had a significant design overhaul. He retains a similar physical appearance, but his wardrobe is completely different. He wears pink pants suspended with a belt, a dark blue shirt, light blue ripped jacket, yellow fingerless gloves with the W symbol, a yellow helmet, also with the W symbol, with goggles and purplish blue elf-like shoes. He's very much the same character, adapted for a new setting. I certainly understand why they went with this option, and I personally think they knocked it out the park. It made complete sense for Wario to look like Mario when platforming was at the basis of his game entries. His first game was a spin-off of Mario's after all, but with a new focus, the updated gear really helped flesh him out into a much more interesting character in this era. In-game cutscenes would appear similar to the game art, with the various microgames showing different art style interpretations of the character, relevant for each video game. WarioWare Get It Together, the series' latest entry, changes up the format slightly by allowing the player to control an on-screen character that is within the microgames itself. In a way, this has blended the two worlds of Wario together, in that Wario has returned to his 2D side-scrolling roots, complete with charge attack intact. It's a cute model that blends the 2D with a slight 3D style, and I love seeing the WarioWare outfit in a smaller side-scrolling format. As is always the case with its character entries, the Super Smash Bros. Series has paid immense tribute to Wario with his appearances in the fighting game franchise. In his first appearance in Super Smash Bros. Brawl, Wario blew away the competition, literally, and showcased his WarioWare outfit in 3D for the first time, complete with the realistic denim textures that the game notoriously liked to feature with its Italian characters. He's been a mainstay of the series ever since, looking better and better with each new entry. As a Wario purist, I was a little bit concerned when he was first announced for Smash Bros, as he didn't feature his trademark look, but luckily it was always included as an alternate outfit in each Smash Bros entry. That's all of the Wario designs I'm going through today, but before I come to my best design conclusion, I've got some insights from fellow YouTuber Hot Cider, who I'm dubbing the Wario Mastermind. Which Wario design does he think is best?
Wario is Nintendo's everyman protagonist, because every man wants to be Wario. After all, he's a successful entrepreneur with a powerlifter's physique and 2 forms of transportation. The fact that his achievements are somewhat achievable for the mortal man is why we gravitate towards him, is why I believe he's never looked better than he does in WarioWare. Simply, it's a look that, with a little bit of effort, you can pull off yourself. Don't get me wrong, bright yellow overalls are a fierce look, but this ensemble was when Wario stopped being Mario with an upside down M and honed his own identity. Of course, it's still very distinctly Wario. It pays homage to his older look. His yellow cycle helmet calls back to the pith helmet from the original Wario Land, and his little impish boots from when he was a real villain. More so, there's something to be admired about a costume change that, despite being close to everyday casual, is somehow even more elaborate than his adventuring getup of a flat hat, cap-sleeve t-shirt and dungarees. That's because Wario knows that no temple dwellers will appreciate a true fashionista. Diamond City's citizens aren't easy to impress, but Wario's wardrobe certainly bowls them over, quicker than one of his microgames.
Cheers for that insight, Hot Cider. It's always nice to have some help from an expert, and if you're a fan of Wario, I definitely recommend checking out some of his fantastic videos on the character. Alas, while WarioWare's design was a favourite of his, what was mine? It's definitely not an easy call, as I love both of the roads the character has gone down almost equally. I'm ever so close to picking the hand-drawn design of Wario Land Shake It on the Wii. No secret that I love toon art styles in my games, and this one is truly unique. However, Wario's such a heroic character this time around, I think he did lose at least part of his true nature. I don't like my Wario to feel as cool as this one, and with that in mind, I'm going with the GBA's Wario portrayal in Wario Land 4 as my best Wario design. Not only did the 32-bit sprite work in this game look incredible, with vibrant colours, amazing animation and official in-game artwork, the game also presents Wario in his, for me, most enjoyable form. He's still a brutish, greedy villain, who we're really able to laugh at along our shared adventure. His context-sensitive powers are so ridiculously over the top, but also so perfect. His inflatable form looks absolutely hilarious, and I love that he is the butt of the joke with these transformations. Seeing him get his comeuppance whilst also making use of it is an absolutely brilliant touch, which is so enjoyable when playing as an over-the-top villain. So that's it from me today, but what did you think? Are there any Wario designs you think I should have mentioned? Let me know in the comments section. At this time, I'd like to thank my patrons for making these videos possible, with a special shout out going to top patron Proggy Froggy, who's donating at the top tier. If you like early access to my videos, rewards from Patreon start for as low as $1. Alternatively, try out this tip button if you're feeling like a trip on the wild side. Go on, I dare you. I bet no one does it.